let's get into our first topic then. And should Boris be given another chance? That's what we're asking. Get your calls in for this one now and we'll speak to you in just a few moments. In a new interview with the Sun newspaper, he's refused to rule out another bid to be Prime Minister. And when asked if he wanted another go at the top job, he said, "I wish things were different and I wish I was still able to be given another chance." So would you give him another chance, or would Tories benefit from having him back, do you think? Maybe you're just glad that he's moved out of number 10. Nelufar, how do you feel about this?
I find it remarkable that he would ask the British public such an audacious request as to give him another chance at having essentially derailed politics from what we know to what it is today, which is a very self-centered way of serving oneself. Politics has become something where showing rather than doing has become the norm. More importantly, he's been incredibly corrosive to the Tory party. He is the person that allowed a lot of the most toxic characters in politics to rise to their prominence. He gave jobs to people that he probably shouldn't have given jobs to, not to mention scandal after scandal. Look, what I'm saying is, of course he's going to want another chance. Who wouldn't? But he's like a toxic ex-boyfriend that keeps knocking at your door at 2 a.m. going, "Give me another chance, give me another chance." And the best thing we can do is say no. I don't care how likable he is or how popular he is. He didn't run the country in a good way. He got us involved in lots of things that we shouldn't. He was just irresponsible to the most extreme. And so we should say no to this toxic ex-boyfriend.
Or does everyone deserve a second chance?
Well, I think you make it sound like it's your choice. And the thing is that you've got somebody who is an extremely charismatic politician. So I accept, and I would agree, he was the architect of his own downfall. It's extremely irritating to me that someone, when they have talent and skill, and I'm not just talking about him, when you see somebody with talent and skill and they basically destroy themselves and they don't fulfil what they could or should achieve, that I think is the most frustrating thing you can ever imagine. So, am I his greatest fan? No, actually, because I think that some of the things you say in terms of the difficulties that we've now got arguably the worst Prime Minister that we have ever had in recent living memory, making even Liz Truss look fairly just appalling. That you've got an individual who's leading the country, saying one thing at every turn, doing something else when it comes to policy, holding, this great international business fair, conference 2 weeks before a budget that will probably destroy businesses up and down the country. I mean, this guy is inept. And then, of course, we've got Boris Johnson, who, of course, as you say, would love to be there again. I'm not sure if the Tory party will allow him. I'm not sure that he would want to go through the half graft to get there. But I think he would have to demonstrate significant change in order to demonstrate, because he was given more chances whilst he was in office than pretty much anybody else, and he managed to ride it out and he managed to repeat those mistakes. So should he be given a chance? Anybody should be given a chance, and frankly he could probably do a better job than all of the useless cretins that we've got either in charge or alternatively vying to be in opposition. OK, we're going to go to the phone lines and find out how you feel. Would you be happy to give Boris Johnson another chance at the top job? Reese from Powys, how do you feel about it?
Absolutely not. He's the most inept Prime Minister we've ever had. And the only thing that he and the Tory morons, Boris and the bunglers, achieved was to remove the great out of Great Britain. He should be given no chance whatsoever.
But Reese, is it fair to say that he had to contend with quite a lot of unusual things? He was trying to sort Brexit, COVID hit, he fell ill himself. There was quite a lot going on during his prime ministership. And on top of all of that, he's got a great, reputation in foreign policy, I suppose. Vladimir Zelensky really likes him, has a lot of respect for them, and they're still in communication. He takes responsibility for the rollout of the vaccine across the UK. Are these not things that we have to look at and say, actually, some things he did get right?
I think the officials and the departments around him got it right. His only thing was, in terms of Brexit, was to arrange things in such a way that it wasn't good, it isn't bad. Look at the problems with Northern Ireland, look at the problems with the EU, all the things that should have been handled much better and weren't. He's got nothing in my book to recommend him at all. Nothing whatsoever.
Do you think he has the potential to learn from his mistakes? His mistakes were there, but do you think he has the potential to learn from them?
we've all got the potential to learn from them. There's no doubt he's a charismatic bloke, great man to have a pint with, but that's about all that can be said about him.
Well, I don't know, having never had a pint with him, Rhys, but yes, that is something that is said about him. And there is an argument, Nelufar, to say that he is a winner. He wins elections. He garners support for things. When they're on the global stage, who does all the leaders want to have a picture with? Not Keir Starmer.
No.
It's Boris Johnson.
And that's fair enough. Look, I'm not going to talk about Keir Starmer's personability because there's just no point. But two things that I think are really important, right? Number one, Boris Johnson, if you put 10 people on a lineup and ask them to tell us what Boris Johnson stands for, what are his beliefs? What does he intend to do? What is his principles? You wouldn't get two of them agreeing on it because the man doesn't stand for anything. He's a power-hungry person, always has been. He's had a privileged upbringing that he's used to climb the highest echelons of of civil service. And the ultimate point has to be this:
But don't they
when you're a prime minister, your job is a civil service role. You have to be the champion of the British people. Boris Johnson stands only for himself. And that's unquestionable. No one will disagree.
No, I'm sorry. I think I would disagree with that because I think the thing is that where Boris Johnson is able to connect, and I think this is a great skill in politics, is when you are able to connect with people who wouldn't naturally vote for you. So, for example, Margaret Thatcher did it, Tony Blair did it, David Cameron did it to an extent, and Boris Johnson did it to a great extent. If you can win in London, which he did twice, in a Labour city, frankly, which, a Conservative wouldn't normally have a chance and you can win, it means that you're connecting with people and they're listening to you and you are able to communicate in a way that's...
what you do with that power
I agree.
Really important. And my point
And when he was Mayor of London, he did actually do a lot of things that were very effective for Londoners. And I rue the day that the current mayor got into power and has started ruining it.
Do you think if they brought him back, he'd be able to defeat Farage?
I think that out of any Tory who's there, he's probably the only one who could.
The other thing, just going back to the charisma and the ability to connect to people, because that is something that is spoken about with Boris Johnson quite often. Was he able to bring his own party together, though?
I think he was, and I think that the problem is that it was his MPs who kind of did him in. But then I think that the issue is that it's because of the conduct, and I think we can all agree that he did not conduct himself well in office. I think the whole scandal relating to PPE contracts, relating to who he hired, and I think his judgment on who he's hired around him, and where I would pitch him against, Keir Starmer seems to be better at putting better people around him, because I think Boris Johnson perhaps was too worried about whether people might either go for him or not be as effective, because he just kind of wanted the right team who he could control. I don't know, but he didn't pick the right people.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you in a minute. Emma from London, what's your view when it comes to Boris Johnson?
I'm quite happy for him to be in charge of the Conservative Party because he made such a bad mess of everything and he was so bad. I never want another Tory government in. So if they put him in charge, the Tories will never get voted in again and we won't have him in charge. So it's actually quite a good thing if he gets put in charge.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Do you think Boris Johnson would be less likely to win an election than the two Tory candidates that we have potentially standing at the moment?
Yes, because everything started being a mess when he put people in charge of the PPE and everything else, and he was the one who started making a mess of the country in the first place because people couldn't trust him and stuff. So it's like everything started going wrong from there in the first place.
So you're championing him, get back.
Yeah, put him in charge and then we get in charge of the Conservative Party and then we never get another Tory lot in again.
OK, Emma, can I just ask you, though, how well is the current government doing?
I don't think that we've given them long enough yet. I think that they inherited such a bad mess from the Tories in the first place that we can't actually blame them necessarily with what they're having to do to deal with it. I think we have to leave it for a year and see if the debts and stuff start going down.
Which they won't.
And see if things start getting better before we actually judge them on it.
OK, they won't.
This was an interesting interview and the timing is interesting. And I do wonder because Boris Johnson is quite a smart operator in the way he does things. Do you think he's just laying down the groundwork for a potential jump back into politics? Because he wouldn't do it just now because we do have a Labour government. They're going to have a couple of years in charge. Do you think maybe in 5 years' time that's what he's going for?
Well, I think very possibly, in the sense that if you have a look at the two candidates who are sort of vying to lead the Conservative Party, I mean, I think it's disappointing that you didn't have, if you like, the two wings being represented by the final two with James Cleverly and either Kemi Badenoch or Robert Jenrick, because I think the thing is with Badenoch and Jenrick, you kind of got both sort of sides of the same coin. So are either of them likely, or could possibly they be a leader of a party that could become, in power? No. So Boris Johnson, very possibly, lying himself out there, select me to go for some safety when they get the chance, get him back in the House of Commons and then see how they go.
The Tory party would be unwise to do it, because Boris Johnson is such a self-absorbed person. He is so only about himself that if the Conservative Party want a healthy, thriving, kind of well-placed party, they need to nurture more talent. And you can't just constantly go back into the bin and, find something that didn't work before and try that again.
Rishi Sunak did it with David Cameron, didn't he?
I think it's very unfair to say that David Cameron was slung out of the bin.
No,
There's the quote of the day. Storm Huntley says that Rishi Sunak went rooting around in the bin and look what he found.
Thank you. I
Lord Cameron.
Words in my mouth, but he did go back in order to find talent.
Yeah.
To go forward.
No. Just keep digging. Keep digging.
Right in the bin.
Hey, Diana from Buckinghamshire, what's your view on this one?
Well, I'd like to know how that little girl sitting there knows so much about Boris.
Little girl in terms of size, Diana? In terms of
yes, the little girl in
intellect,
size.
or
Yes, wearing a white dress. I'm so sorry I didn't catch her name.
Her name is Nelufar.
All right. Well, she seems to know a great deal about Boris, particularly personally and politically. I don't understand how. But I'm going to say that I think it's most unjust the way people are talking about him on there. And I think he was.
Because I don't think anybody at this table knows, or anyone that's been on the phone so far, knows Boris Johnson personally, or indeed physically,
I'm sorry.
whatever that means.
Are you telling me that I've never met Boris?
You may have met him, but do you know him very personally?
I wouldn't say that he's a bosom pal.
Do you send Christmas cards?
We don't send Christmas cards, but we've had a drink together.
Well, I will.
And we've had some chats.
Okay, I maintain.
And I've interviewed him.
I maintain what I said earlier.
Okay.
But Diana, so you think that we're being very unfair? In what way? What statements have been made that are untrue?
Particularly, it was going on about how terrible, and the lady who just rang in, about him being so bad and such a terrible person from the beginning. That's not how it was. There was only the situation with the party gate and things like that, and he did get the wrong kind of people around him.
Hi, Diana. Hi, Diana. I'm the little girl that you're speaking of. Thank you very much, though, for calling me a little girl. I'm 36, so I obviously look refreshed and young for my age, and I'm desperately proud of that. I'm also a journalist, and my job has been for the last 19 years to know what's going on in politics, to report on it, and to make successful, really well-received documentary films about that sort of stuff. I take your point. I don't know the man personally. However, I've done enough work to be able to sit here and with confidence share my opinion on this matter. And so you're entitled to yours, I'm entitled to mine, but I won't be put in a corner by you, I'm afraid. And I will say I stand by my points because I've laid them out very clearly and effectively as to why I think the way I think, Diana.
But there is quite a lot of feeling out there, Diana, along with yours, that feel that there was a bit of a witch hunt on Boris Johnson, particularly towards the end. It was seen that he was kind of ousted by his own MPs. Thank you very much for your call and your point all the same. Maureen from Devon, what's your view on this?
I don't like the way he was bullied out of his job. I think there was a lot more to it, Partygate. I think we should have seen the other people that were involved in it, and they should have taken some blame. But I, for one, don't think not deserving another chance. I think he should be able to stand if he wants to. I think, let's look at it, landslide victory. A lot of people voted for the man, myself included, not the party, to run this country. It was the first time I'd ever voted Conservative in my life.
So do you think
I've got a lot of time for him.
Do you think that he had to leave his position or left his position because of Partygate? You think that was the straw that broke the camel's back, or just the only reason that he went?
I think a lot of people in the Conservative Party were against him. and I think they got him out.
Isn't that part of a leader's job, though, to bring the party together and to garner support? If you're not going to do that within your own ranks, I mean, how do you expect the country to get behind you?
I think he had the country behind him, and that's what the problem was. A lot of people thought he was bullied out of his job, and that he should have been able to continue.
So the Partygate is one scandal. There was a proroguing of Parliament. There was several white papers that were oppressed or delayed by his government to be released pertaining to foreign policy. He refurbished his flat and tried to take donor money for doing so. He was always favouring certain groups over others when it came to lobbying groups and what he did. And finally, the PPE scandal, which saw the misappropriation of billions of taxpayers' money, is just the tip of the iceberg, Maureen. So the man has been in charge of more bundles and been investigated at an extraordinary level. Does he really deserve another chance when he messed up so monumentally?
But I think that's you, or indeed others in the pollsters, taking opinions as opposed to being able to take it to the ballot box. Because I think part of the issue here is that there's no doubt that he and others made monumental mistakes.
Right.
And there's no doubt that there are some things which you refer to there that I think we would all agree should never have happened. And whether it's about PPE contracts, which I think is the most egregious waste of our money, but then also you have to look at the position that he was in and the decisions that they were taking. And I think that some of the advice that he was receiving in terms of how to deal with the country, for example, what he should have done is he should have, at that stage, said there is going to be a very difficult set of decisions that we've got to take. First of all, how do we run government with these rules and regulations? They should never have applied the same rules to government as the rest of the country, in the same way that there were certain people who were running businesses with certain exemptions. He should have made that absolutely clear. The second thing is they should have, with all the PPE contracts, they should have made it an independent body who scrutinised those applications and said, this is going to be controversial, we will make some mistakes, and I want people from Labour, the Lib Dems, the Scottish National Party, everybody to take a look at this, because we're going to take some decisions where you're shoveling money.
That would have taken time that maybe
it would have done. But all I'm saying is that
those are terrible mistakes that a leader should not make.
True, but then every leader of every party makes horrible mistakes. I mean, look at Tony Blair in Iran.
Just time for one more call. Maureen, thank you very much for your call. Jean from Kidderminster, what's your view on this one? Oh, Jean. Matilda from Buckinghamshire, have you got a view on Boris Johnson and whether he should be given a second chance?
I don't think so. I don't think Boris should be even given a second chance to go into number 4, let alone number 10. He and his friends have run this country into the ground. I mean, he should just be the comedian or something. That's what he's good at.
But Matilda, I mean, some people do find him incredibly funny, so you may have another career in that. But when you say he ran this country into the ground, what did he run into the ground?
Look at the state of the economy, for instance. During the
Liz
COVID.
Truss probably had a big part to play in that. I'm not sure we can put that all on the shoulders of Boris Johnson. I mean, the debt through the coronavirus and the pandemic, sure, maybe he has. But weren't we always going to go into debt when a pandemic hit?
Yeah, well, you've got a point. But the thing is, him and his friends have taken that pandemic to their own advantage, giving their friends and PPE contracts to get rich, while the country just struggled and people didn't even get the stuff that they've ordered. I don't think he should be given a second chance.
Their defence on that, Matilda, is they had to act really fast, so they were going to anyone they knew that had a business that could help them get the PPE into this country. They were trying to do it fast and efficiently. It would be their defence in that. Now, looking back, it probably wasn't a wise decision, and maybe something that, like James had suggested, would have mitigated.
Most of those contracts went to their friends. I'm sorry to say, but most of those contracts, if you investigate,
Matilda,
even to their friends and their families.
I'm only playing devil's advocate here, but when you get into trouble, who's the first people you call? It's your friends and family, isn't it, that you get advice from? That was probably misled and has got them into some serious doo-doo. Now, so it was probably not a good idea, but that would be their defence, Matilda. I have to put the other side of the argument across. Thank you very much for your call.